Back here on NEC Football Media Day, we continue our alphabetical order with the Duquesne Dukes, and I almost need a whole page to read the resume of head coach Jerry Schmitt, who's been doing this now for 20 years, has won at least a share of 6 of the last 12 NEC football championships, a perennial powerhouse in the conference. And Jerry, Carmen Brasillo is now the offensive line coach of the New York Football Giants right here at MetLife Stadium. And I said to him the other day, hey, Carmen, give me the first word that comes to mind when I say the words Jerry Schmitt. He had no idea that you and I knew each other. Within seconds, outstanding teacher. What does that mean to you when you hear that?
Boy, I'm very happy to hear that, because I think that's how I drive our program, and the things that I do is, you know, I spent first 17 years of my career as a high school math teacher, and I learned so much from that, and then as a young coach at the Times, as to how to be a good teacher and get across to young people for them to be better at what they do, football, school, and in the community.
And of course, it's important for people to understand that Carmen and Jerry go way back.
Yeah, I recruited him out of Indiana, PA, and I've got a long story about, you know, our relationship. He coached a year for me. It was awesome. Love him. And that makes me happy to hear that.
I got to say, you don't look like a guy that's been coaching for 20 years. He looks still pretty good. I'm very impressed. Hey, one of the things that's always amazed me about you is that your schedule is a daunting schedule at the beginning of the year. It is every year. And yet somehow, despite the challenging start, you guys get back into the fray. By the time the NEC comes around, you're always competing, if not winning, the title at the end. What's your key thought process? What are you communicating to the players in order for them not to become discouraged?
I think these guys could tell you that we are just going to play every play, and we're just going to get better ourselves. And yes, you measure yourself with wins and losses, but they understand that in the end, it's about being there to compete for the championship, no matter what happens throughout the year. And so we just build on that process, take the ups and downs through a long season. Any league, any level you talk about, you take the ups and downs with it. And we just use that to learn and move forward.
Tedy Afful, wide receiver, and defensive back Tim Lowery are back here for another run at it as the Dukes were picked to defend their championship. Fellas, I'm going to ask you on each side of the ball, what do you have to do to get that ring a second year in a row?
So personally, I just think we just need to put points on the board, score every time we get the ball.
No surprise.
Spoken like a true offensive man. I like it.
We just have to put points on the board, because I know our defense is going to make some stops. So once our defense makes stops, we put points on the board, it's game over.
Tedy, I got to ask you before you get to our defense, would you prefer to be inside or outside? And I know what you like most of all is being on the receiving end of some of those deep passes that your quarterback throws frequently.
Yeah.
Would you rather be inside, outside? Is there a preference?
So there's not really a preference. In the game, you usually see me outside more, but I'm versatile. I like playing both, so I don't really have a preference.
That kind of answers the second question I had. I know I've had some receivers that would prefer to start from a stationary position. Others needed some motion in order to get away from a bump and run. But if you're outside, you're pretty much the guy that's stationary.
All right, well, tell me now. And by the way, I believe, did I read this right? It's your 7th year coming back in the program with some red shirts and stuff?
Yes, sir.
So, again, how do you repeat, and how do you use that experience to your advantage? Because not many people get this many chances to play at one place.
I would say taking advantage of opportunities. Whenever the ball is in the air, it's ours. Whenever there's a fumble, every turnover, try to get that. And everybody running to the ball. All 11 heads running to the ball, making plays, and all on the same pace to execute.
Tim, I got to ask you one. Through the years, watching you guys defensively, a few years ago was more of a quarters coverage concept and more zone and seeing the ball, and I won't say a bend or don't break philosophy, but more that we're good enough that we'll keep everything contained. Last year, or 2 years now, I guess you've been a little bit more aggressive, a little bit man, a little bit more blitzing, a little bit more pressure. Do you have a preference?
I would say man. And the reason
you like the challenge of it.
Yeah, I like the challenge. I mean, it's you and the guy in front of you and competing. Best man wins, and I feel like we have good enough D-line that's gonna get pressure on the ball, if not get to the ball. and we have defensive back and guys in the back end who are able to cover and make plays.
I got to ask him one more question, Paul. Being that you've been there this long, you got to look at some of your younger teammates and say, hey, guys, do you realize how important your studies are? This thing's going to end before you realize it. Do you have any advice you pass on? And secondly, do they listen?
Yes, sir, I do. I tell all the younger kids, especially like the freshmen coming in, take advantage of academics. Take advantage of your schoolwork, do everything that you have to do with that, and then football will come a lot easier. I mean, it's difficult to go and worry about football when your academics isn't taken care of, but it's a lot smoother when your grades are good, you go to study hall, you turn in your work, and you go to football. It's just strictly football.
Jerry, we got 30 seconds left. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about your all-conference quarterback who, over the course of his career, has really improved his stock.
There's no doubt. He came to us and, he had some successes and some struggles and got injured the one year. So he's been through a lot. We're so happy to have him back. We're looking forward to a big year with him. He's a quiet kid, but these guys love him. He's a leader. He's a quiet leader, and he's excited about this football season.
Yeah, Darius Parentis certainly did a great job for them last year, and the Dukes are hoping to get a repeat performance. That's the Duquesne Dukes. Second up on our NEC football preview show. Fellas, congratulations on last year's championship, and best of luck this year.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
All right, guys, so much more to come here on today's program. Stick around. We'll be right back.